Hey, you're listening to the Smoke Meat Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Pittman. Today we have got a special episode. I have three of the widows from the Granite Mountain Hotshots here to talk about a documentary that's coming out and give their feelings on it. So we've got Amanda Marsh, Desiree Steed, and Krista Carter coming on. Let's go on ahead and get to it here on Smoked Meat. So how y'all doing today, ladies? Thank y'all so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, Brad. We're really grateful to be given your platform to speak out.
Yeah, I'm happy that I've got it to give. I heard about this quote unquote documentary and the fact that y'all weren't being consulted, nobody really was, and it's bugging me a lot. So I want y'all to be able to tell your stories and what's going on with it.
It's bugging us all too. It's really bothering us. And I think for us, for me, for sure, for Amanda, is that it's that we had to find out when this producer dropped information on Instagram. And that's how we found out that a documentary or docu-series or whatever it is being created, is already in production. So when we have inquired, we were told that, it's not a big deal. It's just starting. And I'm like, well, so many of the families have not been asked to join this conversation. We have not been brought to the table. So there's a lot of us next of kin who are not part of this. And Brendan, our survivor, is not part of it. And Prescott Fire Department's not part of it.
Yeah, we have not been contacted.
Yeah.
In any way.
And that's garbage. I think I told y'all before, it's like me wanting to do a documentary on the Hoover Dam and the only person I consult's a beaver.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. It feels very salacious. And
we actually, we've gone through 13 years of working on healing through this. And every time we think that we have, that positive move forward, it's like a bomb is dropped out of nowhere when things like this happen. With no notification, no warning, no anything. It's not like they've contacted us and even given us a chance to say, no, thank you.
Yeah. And that's just, it's so disrespectful to the memories of the guys and disrespectful to y'all and all the families.
Yeah, I don't think most of us were ever opposed to the idea of a documentary, but having it presented this way and without actually speaking to the key participants that would actually be able to relay information in an accurate way is a little bit of a slap in the face for sure.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. We know our guys so well. We miss them. We are, we said vows with them, exchanged vows, had babies with them. And we are being completely, and lost them. And now we're being completely left out of this moving forward, and it raises a lot of red flags for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I imagine. I don't understand why someone would do that. Like y'all say, y'all have been living with this for these years, and you talked about your kids. I think we talked about that earlier. They were all small or maybe not even quite here yet when this happened.
Right. Yeah. Some were still in utero, and all the rest that were here were, 6 and under.
Yeah.
And so raising them up to this, and at this point for it to be dropped 13 years later, it's like you have the kids that are just coming into the teenage years, and the rest of them, older, and some of age at 18 and up, and some aren't there yet. And so they're finally at that age of like being able to understand it from more of an adult perspective, and have gone through their own ways of healing and dealing with this and handling it. And then again, this gets dropped with, and when it does or how it's done. And for them, it's like, you got to think about them too. How are they going to be able to cope with things and have more of a positive outlook and keep their dad's positive legacy going when they don't even know either, right? Like us as parents can't inform them that this is going to be a good thing. This is going to be a positive thing because we have no information, none. And I know for myself, Krista has asked the producer multiple questions in multiple different ways and times, and he has refused to give me those answers, especially unless I meet him in person or on the phone.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I want to do. And I don't feel that that should have to be something that's done in order to gain answers on something that you're writing about our late husbands.
Didn't he tell you that he would only talk to you if you weren't recording?
Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty skeezy as well.
Yeah, that was a comment on a social media post.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remind me when this is over to give y'all some information about that. And I will.
Thank
Y'all will
you.
love it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But
Yeah, it's.
I hate
It's
shadiness.
just, yeah, that's true. That's a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of shadiness around this.
And skipping all of the immediate next of kin and going straight to extended family members, it definitely seems very deceitful. It just makes you wonder why that would be.
Right.
Yeah. Interviewing ex-wives as well, and not coming to the next of kin wives, us widows.
Right.
Is we're trying to get my father-in-law involved through Eric's ex-wife. Is like, what? I don't even understand how that's possible. I don't even understand how that's a thing that's happening. Yeah. So all of this, or ex-employees, right, that were fired by Eric,
right,
for inappropriate behavior on a fire, unsafe behavior on a fire.
Just seems like so much of this would be really common sense to most people. I mean, my 17-year-old was able to ask me in a very no-nonsense way, like, how can they do a documentary if they're not actually talking to next of kin or any of that? And it's like, well,
right,
that's a very valid question. They probably can't do a very good one.
Yeah. And the people that are connected to the producer, I've had a lot of history with, and there's a lot of tremendously awful stuff that one of those people has put out about the boys, which has been opinion and speculation. And the people connected to this on that end are just horrific people who have made my life very hard and have created a culture within their core of just absolute garbage about the boys.
Well, a lot of our lives, especially specifically speaking, one person that's involved is one that tried to get videos and photos released that we had a lawsuit with
on the autopsies,
autopsy reports.
Why don't you guys share about that?
Yeah.
That, we fought the end of 2013 or somewhere in 2014.
Yeah, you guys,
we went to court to basically have autopsies, pictures, things like that sealed, all the reports, because we knew someday our kids would be curious, and someday our kids are going to be at an age, which we're at that age right now, where they are able to check social media and look online and do their own research, and they're very curious, so they do. And we did not want our children stumbling across anything that they would not be able to unsee.
Yeah.
And so we went to court and we fought to have those things sealed, redacted, whatever you want to phrase that as. But mainly it was to protect our children. I mean, that was the whole purpose, was to protect our children. It wasn't to keep secrets. It wasn't to hide anything.
There was nothing.
It was always to just protect our kids. And that's kind of been our first and foremost thought that we have had since 2013.
Yeah. And I've seen all the reports. I've done deep dives into this because I've been doing fire since I was 14, and it hit me hard when this happened. And I've seen the reports. I've listened to all the radio traffic, and I mean, it's horrible. It is just a terrible thing, And I know the fellas, guarantee they weren't all angels, but none of us are. But they weren't the devil either.
That's right.
They were men that were out there doing what they needed to do and doing it well.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Doing it with a lot of heart, because that was what Granite Mountain was. They were full of heart and try, and they were go-getters, and they were beautiful human beings, and
they stuck together.
Yeah, they stuck together no matter what, and they were together to the end. And that's a big deal for all of us, because that's how we feel, is that we stick together. Wherever one goes, we all go. And it's an important thing. It's an important thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give the ladies room to be able to talk about what it's been like to raise Granite Mountain kids.
Beautiful chaos, I guess. I don't know the proper terms.
And to give them a
Right.
childhood, you know, what it's been like for both Krista and Desiree. I mean,
Well, I mean, raising a child that has lost a parent, that's hard in general, right?
Yeah.
And then you compound that with the way that they lost them, the fact that, you know, the city gets together and honors them every year, and just all the pictures and all of the stickers and everything is so public and nothing is private for them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it feels as if we don't get to have that tragedy as ours, if that makes sense. There's a lot of people that get to, I don't want to say own it themselves, but it's like everything, and everybody's always interested in what are the kids doing? How are the kids feeling? And all of this.
Yeah, which generally we're very, you know, grateful for and honored for and everything, but it does throw another dynamic into the mix that makes it more complicated. You know, it's already hard raising kids in general, right? And then we're on top of that, we're raising a child or children that have lost a parent and lost a parent in that way, and trying to raise them up to be good, decent humans, but also bearing in mind their grief.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes letting them throw that grief in your face, because they do that sometimes too.
Yeah, that is very true.
I can't really even understand how hard that would be. You know, I've raised stepchildren that are a product of divorce, and that's hard, but I have not stewarded a child that came from these guys. And I wonder, Krista, what has been, again, all of this, what has been your biggest set of challenges?
Ooh. Well, there's been many, but I can give you my most recent one. And that was my oldest, who's 19, has entertained the idea of getting into wildland, and has recently gone through the Wildland Academy and has taken the course, which is a week-long course that they hold at Embry-Riddle in Prescott. And
For the Arizona Wildfire Academy.
yes, yeah. And he wanted to go through that because his whole childhood, right? It's like, that's what dad did. That's like, I kind of want to follow in dad's footsteps, as a lot of kids do, you know, especially boys with their fathers. And so he continued down that path and tried the academy, got his red card. And at the end of that week, we had a long talk, you know, about what he experienced and what he did, and did he like it, and, you know, what his like thoughts and emotions were. And he liked it all. He said it was very informative. His biggest thing that he told me, because he was ready to just jump in, right? Get his card and jump in and, you know, try to apply and get hired for Wildland. And I was like, okay, well, you know, just kind of think it through. And after he went through that week, you know, he came home and he looked really tired and defeated, which they do a lot. They do a lot of, you know, field stuff and
Very physical.
yeah, and a lot of education. So mentally and physically, you're just kind of tired. But I remember his one comment to me was that he wanted to wait and really think about if he did Wildland, because on one of their last days, he had to deploy the fire shelter as a practice method, which is what they have them do, so they know how to use it, get it done in a timely manner, if they are, in fact, in that kind of a situation. And that particular thing made him be like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this. So now I'm going to sit back and think about it, because I don't know if that's what I want, you know? And that was my first thought. And even a comment that I had made to him, like, oh, so you had to deploy the fire shelter that didn't save your dad and his crew. And he's like, yeah. So it's things like that people don't realize where those emotions come from. I mean, that's the most recent. There's many over the years, but in his adulthood, that has been an eye-opener. And I think even a little bit of a struggle for him, because it's not something, right, as a child that they really are going to think about when we know those things. But it finally, I think, resonated with him, like, wow, this is what our dads had to do, and it didn't work. So now what?
And I'm in it.
And I'm
inside it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're making a bunch of noise, and they're hitting it, and they're, you know, really trying to make it simulate that experience.
So, and like I said, that was just something that he just kind of came to terms with. And he's kind of more like my emotional kid when it comes to things. And it's those are the things, right, that they haven't thought about yet, that he just now visited that trauma, I guess you could say. So he's trying to work through that, because now that's a whole other like, oh, wow, eye opener. Look what happened, right? And really I don't know about fully understanding it, but better. And then people want to bring out a documentary like this. Like, you're going to drop a bomb on something when you don't have maybe proper information. You haven't asked for a blessing. You don't
haven't
know
allowed us to compare.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so then you got to throw that in there. Like, how do they work through that? I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. You're just like really, you're trying to catch up. You're trying to meet the moment. Yeah. I wonder what that felt like for you, Krista, to be, to hear that from your son.
Well, y'all
And
keep
puts
going.
you right back in that.
Y'all keep going. I'm going to mute myself for just a minute, okay?
Okay. So for you to be in that situation where you hear about your son going through S13190 and having to deploy his fire shelter, and that is so reminiscent, obviously, same exact thing. And
A trigger, for sure.
yeah.
One of those triggers. And that's just in the Wild End Academy. That's not even out
life.
the field of, reality of possibly having to do that, which I will support him in his decisions. But I do not love the idea. Do not love the idea of any of those children wanting to do that. But
Somebody will.
somebody will. They got to follow their dreams.
Yeah.
And you know one thing about it, when he does do this, and y'all know firefighters are different animals. You know,
Yeah.
his dad's reputation is going to follow him, and he's going to have to make his own bones, because he's going to. A lot of
Right.
people are going to say, "Well, you're trying to live off your dad's reputation," and he's not.
Yeah,
And,
that's a whole other thing, right? That's a whole other avenue that's going to pop up when these boys
Yeah, and
go to do something.
you know what we used to call the shelters. I'm sure y'all have heard the word for that. Back before all this
Yes.
happened, I haven't called it that since. But when I
Yeah.
started in the fire service, that was called a shake and bake bag.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, he's
Right.
I don't know if he'd ever heard that or not, but I guarantee you heard it in class.
Right. I was going to say, I have not shared that with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably heard it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Des, what do you think? I mean, what have been your biggest challenges as a mother of two Granite Mountain kids coming into age now, and seeing comments and reading stuff? And I remember that moment that yours and Jesse's youngest saw that horrible comment on some YouTube video, and it was just really devastating for her.
Yeah. My daughter is definitely the more curious one. And so she's always online and checking things out. And she just, some of the things that she's had to read, we've gotten to the point now where as adults, we can kind of disregard the comments that we know are not in their best interest and just don't engage, because there's just terrible people out there. But these kids are not as good at that. And so they read comments that are mean and hurtful. And I would love to be able to take that pain away from them, and I can't. It's not something that I can ever fix. I just have to kind of work with her on dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we wish we could fix, and we can't.
And they're not even, I know her and, my daughter are the same age, and they're not even the youngest ones. So
Yeah.
So one's younger than that are
No.
going to see.
But they're the ones that are getting into that like social media era. Like some of the really young ones are probably not quite there yet.
Yeah,
I think.
Those ages, the 16 and up have more memories too of their dad.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And the thing that was hurtful too with all this documentary stuff was there were many things that have been hurtful about it. But one of the things is that, it keeps getting thrown back at us. Well, if we don't do this documentary, you're not allowing us to save firefighter lives. And I'm like, that's a hell of a statement right there, and completely inaccurate, because That is not at all our perspective. We want firefighters to be taken care of and firefighter lives to be saved. But the problem is that when you try to say that this documentary or this kind of thing is the only way that information is going to get out there and you're going to expose the truth and blah, 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 it's like, that's not the way to make firefighters safer.
Correct.
We don't go after people. We go after systems. And there were some systems, absolutely, that were definitely at the breaking point in the Yarnell Hill fire. And to go after the guys who were just trying to work within that system.
Right.
And that's what the people surrounding this documentary, that's what they do. They go after the guys in such horrible ways instead of going after the systems. And that's where so much of the grief and the trauma comes from, is like, we all know that things can be better done in wildland fire, but it's not up to us to make sure that every wildland firefighter is safer in the future through some sort of documentary that we were not invited to.
Well, and a documentary that's interviewing people that were not as close to the situation and completely bypasses next of kin, the department, the survivor, is not going to be one that's based largely on credibility anyways.
Yeah.
Or helping.
In my opinion, if they want to use this documentary to save firefighters' lives, where's the money from it going?
Yeah.
That too.
You
Yeah.
know, y'all know
Good
I don't
point.
make a thing off of this. I do this as my therapy. So, but if I was, it would be going to the foundation, because that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it
That's
does
very
good
sweet.
there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Help other firefighters and their families.
that's right. That's right. But for us to be called out on the mat over something like that, it's very inappropriate, disrespectful, and damaging to all of us.
Very short-sighted.
Yeah. Very short-sighted.
Well, and these involved, when you have a lot of them, and the first comment to us, the widows, out of their mouths are, I don't understand why you're so upset about this. Well, there's your first clue.
Right.
You don't
You
know
haven't had to
us.
live it.
Yeah.
You haven't had to live this for 13 years.
Yeah. They haven't had to raise their kids.
Or take the time to understand us.
I'm going to
Or
mute you
ask.
for just a second, okay? Y'all keep going.
Right.
And you haven't asked, that's the big thing. So instead of asking the question, they're just like, what's the big deal? Right? Just allow this to move forward and not have any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like fear.
My favorite is when people tell us, oh, just wait and see what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
But by then it's too late.
Right.
That, or telling us to watch the other film.
Yeah. Oh, just wait and see. Just wait and see.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
right. If I followed that policy for the last 13 years, we'd be in a much different position.
Correct.
Yeah. Super painful. And it dredges up so much trauma and just bad memories, unnecessary trauma and bad memories. And it dredges up, all of us have been feeling like we're back in a bygone time, right?
Yeah.
Like we're almost 13 years in, and we've been living lives where we're feeling normal and good. We're not healed by any means, but we're feeling good and safe in our lives. And then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, lands this huge boot in all of our laps. And it's like, we don't, we're being asked to just allow it to be. And that's not, I don't think that's an appropriate or respectful thing to put on us. I think the most respectful and appropriate way to deal with all of us is to invite us all to the table.
Right.
But when you're connected to people who are very disparaging of the crew and their entire motivation has been since day one to take the crew down, it means that there's very little trust there. So there's very little trust there from that perspective, and then very little trust when you keep us out of the conversation.
Or telling us that we don't have a voice when it comes to this.
We don't need permission.
We don't need permission.
We don't need our permission. Yes.
Yeah, we don't need your permission. We don't need your permission. Well, you should get our blessing, and you should help us feel comfortable about what you're doing. And when you keep us out, it makes us think that you're up to no good.
Yeah.
And when that producer tells you, Krista, that he'll meet with you, but you can't record the conversation, it really makes you feel like, geez, that's pretty skeezy. That's something's there's a bug somewhere in this.
Right. Well,
My 16-year-old read that and said that was the first red flag.
Yeah.
so when a teenager can see that,
Yeah.
why can't anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what really sucks, is had they come to y'all, they would have had such a lot better information, more true to life information, things that they're not going to be able to get normally. And
Mm-hmm.
with this thing, the kids now, they're going to be in the spotlight more because they're getting older. And
Right.
like I say, I'm just feeling horrible about this whole thing. I hate the way that it's being done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We do too.
I was saying I've granted every interview that has been properly vetted and come my way because I would always rather the correct information be out there than not. So I have never turned it down. I don't go out searching for things typically because I tend to be more of a private person, but anytime that someone asks me and it's been properly vetted and I'm in a safe space to do that,
Right.
then I've done it. I mean, I have no problem with the documentary in general. I have no problem with information coming out or saving firefighter lives. I mean, that's a huge assumption to just jump to that.
Yeah.
But
And accuse us of that.
yeah, like that's not the issue at all. They're missing the point, and it's a very short-sighted point. Point is, this should have been properly vetted. It should have gone to next of kin, and it should be filtering down from there. And instead, they did the exact opposite. They started with extended family members, distant family members,
Ex-family members.
ex-family members, ex-employees, and then they're trying to climb a ladder up, and it's the exact opposite of what they should have done.
Yeah.
And told us that they've had, no other avenue of contact to get a hold of us, which is an absolute excuse.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
like Des said, we've been contacted by many different entities.
Well, they said it's not like there's a directory for you, which I find ironic because there is, in fact, a directory if you go to the department.
That's right. It's called the Prescott Fire Department. There is a directory for all of us, and you start there, and that directory gets filtered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They come to us and share it and do give us the option to engage or not. So
Yeah, when you were on the show, Amanda, before, you didn't come hunting me. You were pretty easy to find. I reached out to you, and you're like, cool.
yeah, right. Point improvement.
I know. I have a nonprofit foundation. I mean, if any of us are easy to find, it's kind of me.
Mm-hmm.
You can really send me a letter, send me an email. You can call our shop phone. You can
Make a comment.
Yeah, right. You can send me a message. I'm going to see all that on our social media. I'm going to see all that stuff, but nothing came. Nothing came.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. But, I'm just hoping that this thing, I don't wish bad on anybody, but if anything is ever going to fizzle out and not be shown, I hope it's this.
We do too.
Yeah.
We all do. We just feel really troubled that it's happening and feel very troubled by how it's all being put together. Very troubling that it's been, it was on Instagram and it was obviously in production because the producer even said it was in production,
Yeah.
And
reading the comments from other people that some of the extended people that are involved in this were saying this has been going on for 8 years. We've been left in the dark, seeing these people to their faces, and it just has been completely ignored. It just feels like such a betrayal.
Yeah.
It feels like such a betrayal.
And there is a way to do this stuff that's respectful and true to the story. I mean, I know everybody knows the movie, and I know a lot of what happened is in the movie, and things were a little bit different, but they're putting a whole lot into 2 hours. But and y'all can tell me different if it's not true, but I feel like the guys who portrayed the fellows did just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I spoke to Badge, who played Jesse, at length multiple times, and he was very good about asking me details about Jesse, about his life, his character. I mean, there was a lot of things that your average person would not pick up on watching the movie, but things that I noticed because it was like, that's my husband right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they at least, they tried, they put in the effort. Was it perfect? No. Is it a movie? Yes, it's not a documentary, it's a movie.
Yeah.
But there was more effort with that than what we have gotten with the documentary.
By far more effort. By far.
One thing that impressed me so much on there was I've heard all the radio traffic. I've listened to it. Like I say, I've studied a lot of this, and I know at one point when he's calling and saying, that they're in trouble. At one point, I know on the radio, Eric stuttered a little bit, and
Yep.
in that scene in the movie, Josh Brolin stuttered exactly the same way at exactly the same spot. And I said, I'm a fan forever because he went into that detail and shows that much respect to the person.
Eric only stuttered when he was afraid.
Yeah.
That's the only time he ever stuttered, when he was in fear.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that Eric was in fear in that moment, and that's why he stuttered. And I appreciate what you're saying. And in that moment, when I remember listening to that radio transmission, too, that last call, I went to the cemetery and listened to it from start to finish, laying beside Eric's grave, because I was afraid that if I didn't listen to it right then it was going to injure me later, because these people were shoving everything at us so fast. They were, the people that are attached to this documentary were shoving everything at us so quickly and forcing us to look at everything. Like, I remember when the autopsy reports were absolutely shared by this other person that wasn't authorized to do that. It was very early on, and I just sat there and read every single autopsy report, every single one, and it was absolutely crushing and demoralizing, and it just killed me. And I remember doing that because I thought, I want to do this for myself on my own terms before I accidentally see something somewhere. And that's what
it gets tainted.
Right. And that's what the ladies, and I are, Krista and Des and I are all here to talk about, is like, that's what's going to happen to our kids, And when I say our kids, the kids kill me. I mean, both of these ladies can tell you, like, the kids just draw me to my knees, and I love them so much. And it's devastating for me to think about them stumbling on these things, and the misinformation that's out there, and the mean-spirited information. And that is the person and people that are connected to the documentary producer and filmmaker. So it's really hard, and it's very troubling and disturbing, and it makes me really, really sad. And I know a lot for us is that we've kind of been sitting around going, well, we can never get comfortable again. We can never get comfortable in, like, moving forward and having a good life, because this is the shoe to drop. We're waiting for the next person, to come out of the sky, and the next opportunistic person to drop down, something really terrible and frightening, and something that we are not prepared to handle because we haven't been informed.
Yeah. Well, and we've also kind of pointed out, I mean, obviously there's quite a few families, and the odds of us all agreeing all at the same time are slim to none.
Oh, yeah.
That's human nature, right? But the pros and cons of having them be so many of them together is we've got this built-in support system. The con is that it's never just a single person's decision. You don't get to make these decisions as
by yourself,
because this involves so many people. There's so many people. And even though they may not all agree all at the same time, there does need to be some kind of, at least like a majority rules kind of thing. A collective voice. Yeah. Because when you've got 3 out of 19, you're outvoted.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And when people, I've shouldered a lot of these people that are connected to this documentary. I've shouldered it a lot by myself, because I didn't want to give it to my fellow widows who had their kids, because I don't want them to have to handle it. I don't want them to have to deal with it. I don't want them to have to process this while they're trying to raise these families. And so it's really upsetting and troubling, but I'm glad to share it now. Other families know and are fighting back against this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, I'm so happy y'all have been on here today, and y'all know y'all got my ear anytime. Anytime y'all want to be on
Awesome.
here, all you got to do is holler. Y'all got any questions, y'all need advice about anything, holler.
Okay.
You know,
Well, thank you,
I'm
sir.
happy to help any way in the world.
Thank you.
But I appreciate y'all so much for coming on here, and we're going to get through this. I'm just happy that y'all are getting to letting everybody know what's going on with this thing.
Right. Thanks for giving us that opportunity. Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
More so than the rest.
Yep, more so than the rest. Yep.
oh man, oh man. But yeah, if y'all need anything, y'all know all you got to do is holler at me.
Sounds perfect.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Last night when we finished this episode, I had told the girls I was going to do this, and it was tough for me. I couldn't do it last night, and I got up this morning and said I owe these men this, and I haven't set up all my fancy recording gear, all my sound stuff. I'm sitting here on my deck looking out at my woods, this beautiful green trees and grass and just nature, and knowing this is what these guys, fought to preserve and fought to save people and save their homes. And I feel like this is just the perfect place and time to do it. I'm here at home and sitting on the deck thinking about this. So I'm going to do this out of respect to the guys and just to be doing the right thing. Andrew Ashcraft, Robert Caldwell, Travis Carter, Dustin DeFord, Christopher McKenzie, Eric Marsh, Grant McKee, Sean Meisner, Scott Norris, Wade Parker, John Person Jr., Anthony Rose, Jesse Steed, Joe Thurston, Travis Turbyfield, William Warnicki, Clayton Whitted, Kevin Wojcik, and Garrett Zupiger. I'm so sorry, Garrett. I hope I didn't mispronounce anybody else's names. This is out of respect to you guys and out of respect to you ladies and all the survivors. Thank y'all so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk to y'all and let y'all get y'all's stories and feelings out. If y'all need anything, you know where I'm at.